2. Welcome to Purple Coach Conversations with Anne and Tanya, myself. Our goal is to normalize, educate, and inspire people with conversations around diversity and inclusion. We're both coaches, we're both mothers and entrepreneurs. And we're not diversity experts, but we aim to have conversations with people that have something unique and interesting to say about their journey and experience in diversity and inclusion. So our guest today is René Carayol. René is a leading executive coach, author, and broadcaster. He worked with world leaders. He's got an extensive business background, working with some of the Fortune 500 and FTSE 100 top chief executive officers. He's also the founder and CEO of Carayol, a consultancy firm specializing in inclusive leadership. And he's an accomplished visiting professor at Cass Business School as well. His latest book, Spike, What Are You Great At?, enables all of us to unleash our inherent strengths and realize our true potential. So here we are, René. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
It's Tanya and Anne, it's my pleasure, it's my privilege. I'm really looking forward to this.
Thank you so much. So René, I have to share this with you. Look, when I started following you, listening to you, etc., I had clear 3 questions in mind. You know, I had like different questions I knew I was going to ask you. And then every time I kept listening to a new podcast, I was like, no, actually, I want to ask him something else. And then another podcast or another thing I was reading. And I was like, today, the excitement of there's so much that we want to bring up and ask you.
Please.
So many different things. So trying to structure that into 3 things is quite difficult. I guess that's not my spike. That's not my strength to synthesize things. But at least the excitement is there, and we know that it's wherever it's going to go, it's going to be a unique moment. So that's.
I look forward to it.
Exactly. So we thought that the best way would be to kind of ask you to just tell us a bit about your story to our listeners, so that they can get a little picture of everything.
So look, I'm the accidental coach. Right? I'm the person who's been around, seen so many things, done so many different things in many different places, that it was inevitably going to lead to trying to help others to be the best that they could be. But if I go way, way back, my first role models were my parents, who came from Gambia, West Africa, British colony, back in the early 1960s. And as many of the immigrants who came to the UK at that time, they came to give their children the best education they could, because back in the empire as it was in those days, we had primary education, secondary education, but no tertiary, no colleges, no universities. They sold everything. They left their middle-class life, and my mum would never have worked, came to London, and London was a very different place to where it is today. And with all their collective life savings, they only had access to not the best housing, which meant not the best schooling. But I managed to get to university. I was lucky enough to work for Marks and Spencer's, one of the best of the British at the time, the largest retailer in Europe at the time, who taught me everything about management, nothing about leadership. Very cautious. I then was lucky enough to move to the States and be on the board of Pepsi, a challenger brand. Very risk embracing. Taught me everything about leadership, nothing about management. So for the rest of my career, I've been trying to fuse together management and leadership. And I've been lucky enough to work in organizations where I could see people who role modeled the best of leadership, the best of management, the worst of leadership, and the worst of management, which enabled me to be in a position to coach others. And because I'll be standing on a stage talking about leadership, I'd normally form a relationship with the chief executive of the company that I'm doing the talk about leadership for. If it resonates, if what I was saying resonated with the chief executive, we'd have follow-up conversations, and I would end up coaching the chief executive. So all my clients are at the top of the house. I work with the chief executive. and their top teams. At a multinational level, I've worked on every continent. I've managed to work with heads of state, prime ministers, chief executives, all by accident, never by a plan. But the more you work with, the more you learn. And the more I realize the chief executive's role is the toughest job in the organization. It's also the best job in the business. But it's the only job that has no training or development. When you're first appointed chief executive, you walk into the cockpit of the plane, you've never flown the plane before. So I tend to be sitting there waiting for you, because I've flown the plane many times. I've seen many people fly the plane before. I've been a chief executive. I've been the chair. I've been the managing director. So I'm less remedial coach who's fixing a problem. I'm more the coach who's trying to accelerate your career. And I'm less there sitting on a couch with you. I'm role modeling the behavior to show you how it might be done. So it's a very different dynamic. And back in the day, way back in the day, I never looked like I'm the executive coach of the chief executive. And that led to many, many interesting occurrences. But nowadays, the world has changed. And I spend 80% of my time with the chief executive and their top team. In today's challenging circumstances through the pandemic, but also having benefited, as you say, May the 25th last year, the world of leadership changed. The tragic murder of George Floyd led us to a world of inclusive leadership. And 80% of my clients, we're doing inclusive leadership. Everybody in, nobody out. Believe in everyone. And where I'm spending the majority of my time is helping leaders understand the vision of belonging, where everyone in your workforce, every one of your colleagues, can bring all of their authentic selves to their place of work every day. They're not having to act. They're not having to pretend. They're not having to leave some of themselves behind. They're bringing every part of themselves to work every day. And that means not just their voice being heard, not just their contribution being valued. It means everything they bring, everything they are, being truly embraced, being truly cherished, being truly treasured. Now, that's a vision that no one I'm working with has got to yet. But every one of them is en route. And I keep having to bat people, the cynics, away. They say, oh, come on, it's ticking boxes. How do you know? You're not there.
Yeah.
I'm there. They're not ticking boxes. And, oh, but it's whitewash. Rubbish. You're not there. And I have to tell people they may be clumsy. They may be ignorant. They may get lots of things wrong. But the investment I'm seeing people put behind this, the pressure they're under from their younger colleagues, their younger customers, a new generation who are demanding this. Government is failing miserably and provoking unhelpful culture wars. The academics have got themselves lost in that if you're not negative about race, you're not real, you've got two heads. Who would have thought in the middle, I'm seeing big business making by far the biggest headway, the biggest pushes in trying to change this world, our culture and our society in a more inclusive way. If someone had said that to me 3 years ago, I'd say you're smoking something. What planet are you on? But in actual fact, 90% of my business, that's exactly what we're doing.
That's an optimistic what you're saying is a very positive outcome. It is true that when we've interviewed diversity and inclusion experts as well, both black and white. So it was an interesting way to kind of understand their perspective. And what came out from it was also the fact that how it was sometimes a short-term solution that they were trying to find. And you're actually bringing up that that's not always the case. You also have people that...
Tanya, that's a really interesting point, because I think there's a confusion, a big confusion. And forgive me for saying this, but I'm going to say it quite directly. I'm going to say it again. I operate at the top of the house.
Yeah.
where we're trying to change the culture of the business. That takes time. But what you get, because people at the top, the chief executive especially, is being criticized a lot. Stop talking about it, get to actions. Get something tangible in place. There's a rush to actions that's very unhelpful, which is what makes it short term.
Yes. Can
That's
I?
a good point. Sorry. It's such a good point as well, René. You said so much there that I found really profound. You know, just following on from the point that you said, a lot of the times that you've got the negative people who are going, oh, it's just whitewash, or it's not really happening, and so on. And I have to admit, you know, just following on from what Tanya said as well, one of my questions to a previous diversity and inclusion expert was around the fact how much of this is ticking boxes, like how much are they hiring you into these companies to tick boxes, and especially after George Floyd's murder, because everyone then wants to be seen to be socially responsible and doing the so quote unquote right thing. But from your perspective, that you've been there for, you know, way longer than this, and you've been there for several years, and I think a key point of what you're saying as well is working at the top level, at the CEO level, and understanding that change takes time. And I think that is so key as well. And your perspective is that 19, you've been there, you're seeing that it's 90% of your clients are actually really interested in making the change, and it's genuine. So that's for me, I think is a really profound and amazing thing to hear, I think. Because
and
that's
I've got more. And
Yes.
I've got more to tell you. So I'm going to name some names to bring this alive.
Yes.
If we don't name names, it doesn't come alive.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I know what I'm talking about. And forgive me for this, but it's going to upset some of your listeners, but I'm going to say it anyway. When you're performing at the junior level of the organization, it's training. It's one-off training courses. They don't stick. When you're coming in with all of the training, I'm not talking about training. I'm not talking about we're going to come on a course because something's gone wrong. We need to educate you to be better. That's essential, but it doesn't stick. No matter how many times we've tried in the past, that doesn't stick, because you've got to change the culture of the organization to be appreciative of that training, so it embrace it when they come back to the same old world they left before. What went wrong will happen again because you haven't changed the conditions of that. At the top of the house, where they're used to cultural change, and I'll give an example. The cultural change might be digitization. The cultural change might be to become more entrepreneurial, to embrace a market opportunity. We work with, so we know that change can take 2 to 3 years, and it's going to be a huge investment in development, changing our processes, changing our reward mechanisms. And, you know, we always talk about the 3 Ps. It's people, it's process, and then you've got to talk about the procedures. The people bit is engage the people, change their mindsets. It's change how they view things and their behaviors. That takes time. The processes, it's where normally it's technology, it's management, it's process, it's changing how we do things. Procedures, HR, how we reward people, how we measure them, so we make the 3 things stick. People always comes first, process takes longer, procedures takes forever. We're talking 3 to 4 years change here. However, what the pandemic gave us was we had to do things. I did a session with 20 chief marketing officers where they said 6 years digital development they did in 6 months. Why? Otherwise they're going out of business. When your back's against the wall, you can do it quickly. Let me get back to what I'm talking about, changing the culture for inclusion. Forget diversity, that's the easy bit. Diversity is the fact, inclusion is the choice. Getting a bunch of different people together and enabling them to fail isn't success. Getting a bunch of different people together and creating the conditions for success, enable them to succeed, change the culture so that it embraces them. It's not just bringing them in and leaving them to flounder, fail, and then leave. Nothing's changed.
Wow, that sentence.
Right?
People together and enabling the change with the processes.
Everything.
So
Everything
we are
changes.
at the first P right now. We are the people.
We're at
That's
the people.
where we are.
Yes. So what happens at the top is I'm coming in and I'm speaking to a chief executive, not chief anything else, not chief diversity officer, not chief people officer, not chief operating officer, chief executive. If the chief executive isn't bringing me in, I'm not coming. Because you can't affect the change that I need to see. And that change is holistically right through the business. If the chief executive is at the top, and what the first thing that happens is a discomfort about talking about the tough stuff. If I say diversity in the UK, everyone will talk to you. If I say inclusion, everyone will talk to you. If I say race, they run for the hills. So I say race and see who's left in the room. And what happens? The chief executive is there. And the first thing I want to coach them to getting comfortable, feeling uncomfortable. So I'm going to tell you a little story. It's a true story. This was 3 days after the tragic murder of George Floyd last year. My WhatsApp starts to go mad. Everyone that was calling me is white, middle-aged, middle-class, chairman or chief executive of a big multinational. They're all saying one thing to me. For one reason or another, I need to catalyze, provoke, hold a conversation about race in my business. I don't know where to start. I don't know what words to use. I don't want to offend. I don't want to make mistakes. Help me. Where do I start? What do I say? I was dishing out 15-minute coaching sessions, boom, 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 for 3 days nonstop. And they went something like this. Doing nothing is no longer an option. Being neutral is no longer acceptable. You can't be non-racist. You need to be anti-racist. You need to start those conversations. You're not going to be perfect. You're going to make some mistakes. That's okay. Everyone's going to pick up your intent. Start somewhere. Be brave. If you get things wrong, fess up. Stand up and say you got it wrong. But everyone will know your intent. It's a bit like swimming. Theory can only take you so far. At some stage, you're going to have to jump in that swimming pool. And you're going to get wet. And you get a mouthful. You might even get a bellyful. But there'll be a bunch of allies standing in that pool who's going to enable that you swim. Go. Start. Now. 6 months later, every single one of them started. None of them was perfect. Every one of them made mistakes. Every one of them had a belly full of water. Most of them I've gone back in to help them. Don't tell me that they don't mean it. They've embarrassed themselves, they've hurt themselves, they've injured themselves, but they're still standing. Now, in every single one of them, when I go to work with them, the message they're getting from their direct reports, from their advisors, from their so-called diversity consultants is, you got to move to action. You got to move to action. You got to walk the talk. You got to be demonstrable. You got to be tangible. I go and I say, no, you don't understand what inclusion is. You've never walked in the shoes of your people. You've never had the lived experience. Why are you going to actions when you don't know anything about it? They mean nothing. And we've got organizations we work with who've got all the actions in the world. They've done all the measurements in the world. They've captured all the data in the world. They run all the events in the world. And they think, fantastic, we're doing action. But hearts and minds, they've not won yet. They've not changed yet. They don't understand what it means to belong. They don't understand what it feels to be excluded. They don't understand when you don't feel that you can speak up. They don't understand what it's like that your manager doesn't understand that you have a different set of strengths, that you're being shoehorned into a particular job description and you're being someone who you're really not every day just to survive. They don't understand that. They don't know what it's like to walk in the shoes of someone who's LGBTQ and who's really frightened of speaking up for who they really are. They don't understand what it's like that I work in an anti-Semitic environment and I don't really feel empowered to speak up about it. I just have to grin and bear it when people speak. They don't, but they've got actions. So I'm saying to them, before we get to the actions, let's demonstrate to each other that we're fully going to embrace each other. And difference isn't inferior or superior. It's a better understanding and embracing the power of our difference. Our difference is our strength is our difference. But I need you to fully understand, accept, embrace, empathize with it. Then we can get to actions, because the actions mean something. And I'm working with Microsoft. So let's Microsoft, right? So let's name someone. Claire Barkley, Chief Executive, fabulous. Claire and I finish off each other's sentences. But they ran away with the actions. They ran away with the measurements. I've come in, I've said, Claire, you need to pull this back in. I don't think you've got the hearts and minds. How do you know? I ran some exercises. We did some exercise. We've got an exercise we call Rose and Thorn, where we say over the last 3 months, name all the incidences where you had a positive experience about race. Name me your most positive experience about race, and then name me your most negative experience about race over the last 3 months, professionally, personally, or domestically. What always happens, everyone we do it with, 90% of the positives are to do with the younger generation. 90% of the negatives are to do with the older generation. Everywhere we go. The biggest gap is not race, it's not gender, it's generations. There's a younger generation that gets this. They're joined up. They see difference as the biggest positive. They embrace difference without even thinking about it. They don't live in the monocultures that we grew up in. They're better traveled, they're better educated. They're more tech savvy. They feel really strongly about society's goods, that they want climate change, they want sustainability, they want inclusion. And they're outspoken about it. And they won't keep quiet about it. They are assertive about it. And they're the force that's making business change at the top. It's not your diversity consultants. It's that younger generation. And it's either the younger colleagues at work or it's the next generation of customers who are totally influential. And businesses aren't stupid. Are they doing it because it's the right thing? I don't think so. I think they're doing it because it's a smart thing.
Yeah.
And they're doing it, they're really, really doing it.
It's such an inspiring story. And the fact that you're giving names makes it more concrete as well for us. And it's true that I can't help, as a coach, you constantly, analyze what's going on also within yourself when you're listening to somebody. So I'm going to tell you, I can't help but think that, 3-4 years it feels very short time. When you say those 3 P's going to take 3-4 years, because those examples, that walking in the shoe of somebody, I find that almost as an evolution of the mind, right? Like George Floyd has been a fast forward for a lot of people who might have needed many more years to get to that George Floyd kind of understanding. And I'm talking for myself here, but I know a lot of people share that. So I'm just wondering, how can we create those, 3-4 years feels short to me. And yeah, this is how I feel when you talk about all these things, but it is an optimistic, it would be great that it's only 3-4 years.
So I'm still got some to remove from you, some of your slight skepticism to remove there. So let's give this a go. Okay, so let's understand this. 2 weeks ago, I was on a panel with Noel Quinn, the Group Chief Executive of HSBC. Let's name names. Right? Theory doesn't help us. Let's get into practice and pragmatism. And unlike many of the other people you're talking to, I'm keeping this real because it's so important, because it matters. Argue with me if you dare, because I'm naming names and real stories, real case studies, real facts and figures. Noel Quinn presides over a business of 215,000 people, HSBC, Europe's largest bank. We're doing a panel about inclusion, and we're on the same panel. Well-intentioned people on his inclusion team, they've prepared loads of questions, and secret between us, don't tell anyone please, loads of answers. I read all of this and I'm thinking, the audience needs to hear from Noel. They want to hear what he's got here. They don't want to hear what he's got here. They want to know what's here. This is hearts and minds. It's not about the most intelligent person in the room. It's who cares. Who really cares? So by the time we get to the rehearsal, and we know what answers we're supposed to give, I say to Noel, no, I think they want to hear what you really feel. He looks at me. You ask the questions on the night. On the night, I interview the panel. And I interview Noel. He doesn't know what I'm going to ask him. And I'm asking him questions no one who works for him would dare ask. But that's what people really want. Why are you doing this now? Why does it matter to you? What difference is this inclusion going to make to you? And he's answering them honestly. And his throat is dry and he's having to clear it. And he's a bit nervous. Because on Zoom, everyone can see him. How much more authentic is that? And he's saying things like, we've been pushing at this for some time now and we haven't made the inroads I would like us to. I'm taking accountability for this change now. I'm going to hold myself responsible. We are going to do this. And here's my commitments to you. And this is what we're going to do. We finish, I ask him loads of questions. We take questions from the audience. And he puts out a note on LinkedIn. And you should go and find this. Just type in Noel Quinn, Chief Executive, HSBC. All of yours. And he put a long, honest note down. He said, I was on this panel. I met René Carayol. He asked me some straight questions. I answered this way. He answered that. Then look at the comments he's got. He's got about 25% who don't believe, and I would say 10% of those will never believe. You're never going to take them. He's got about 50% who applauded him. At long last, we've got honesty. At long last, we've got someone who's saying the truth of where we are and what we're going to be. And then he's got about 25% who are saying, we want to believe you. Let's see some evidence, right? That's the reality. That's the reality. And the truth is, who wants to work for the pessimist? Answer, no one. No one. If you're going to lead this form of cultural change today, you better be an optimist. If you don't think it can be done, you're not going to even start. We need this to work. So we need leaders who are committed, who are going to stick their necks out, who are going to take a risk, who aren't going to be perfect. And I said to Noel, the only mistake is the one you don't learn from. But you're going to make some mistakes. You're not going to be perfect. I've got a collection of these chief executives sticking their necks out. They're clumsy. They're not perfect. They make mistakes. What we want of them, tell us when you've got it wrong. Tell us how you're going to make it better. But tell us, honestly and openly, communicate with us. This is my coaching to them. And even if it's the most unfavorable news in the world, just be honest with us. What we can't take is sugarcoating. What we can't take is varnish. We're adults, treat us as such. This is the journey of the unknown. Out of all the companies I'm working with some fantastic ones. None of them are there yet. None of them has a totally inclusive environment where people feel they belong yet. Everyone I'm working with is better than it was before. And George Floyd has been a seismic change. And I would say they're not doing it piecemeal. It's not ghettoized down into the lower rungs of the board talks about it. 3 weeks ago, I was invited by the board of Citigroup to talk to them about inclusion. It was in the evening. And I came there with a view that I'm going to be straight talking. I'm going to challenge you. But my real job is to energize you on this journey. I don't want to belittle you. I don't want you to feel bad about it. I want you to feel so energized that it's the most important thing you do. I want to raise it from item 26 on your board agenda to item number 1. At every board meeting, I want it to be item number 1. We had the most challenging, straight talking, sometimes angry, sometimes pushy, sometimes emotional conversation. I loved them. By the time I left, I remember the last thing I said to you, I came here with the brief to energize you. You have energized me.
And that's the best outcome.
Isn't it? That they're up for the journey. They want it. They're desperate. Do they fully understand it? Are they experts? No. But how do you become experts? Become fully engaged. Try stuff. Mean it. Be honest. I've yet to work with an organization that says no. What we do meet on a regular basis is what I call the incumbency. We'll meet those who feel threatened.
I was going to ask you about that, I was going to ask you about how you deal with those who are clearly showing a resistance to understanding why inclusion is so important, or why diversity is so important, or why talking about race is so important, and how do you manage that? I'm guessing, obviously, if you're speaking to CEOs and they have invited you to speak or to coach them and to help them around this, that they would not be resistant to it, or they would probably not have, invited you to do that. But at some level, if you look at trickling down from the CEO to these other roles, you mentioned as well that from your the lady at Barclays who they did the study, and 90% of those that was more negative feedback was the older generation. Now I can imagine as well, it's more the older generation that sit on board level as well, as opposed to the younger people.
So look, it's more straightforward than that.
Okay.
In every business we work with, there are the incumbents, those who were, I wouldn't say in power, but in favor, in the majority, in the most powerful positions, in the most leadership positions. So if I go back to my Microsoft example, it's the engineers. The engineers are in power. If I go to L'Oreal, it's women. All the senior powerful is women. But normally, it's your white men. Normally. In a place like London, in the UK, that's where you can remember, I would say 25% of my clients are in America. Who would have thought that we're taking leadership coaches to go to America and coach inclusion? We are. I'll come back to that. But to your question, we'll meet the question. There's two bits of resistance that we feel all the time. Number one, you're practicing positive discrimination against us. We are not in being included. It's all about women and race. It's not us anymore. We're the last ones, we're being excluded, blah, 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 blah. The answer is do even more inclusion. Include them. Include them. Hear their voice, hear their complaints, give them a voice. Bring them, make them part of it. We've yet to work with anyone when they feel included, when they feel part of it, and they see it's a meritocracy, it's a level playing field. Why wouldn't you? You're not being threatened. We're looking for talent in places we've never looked before. There is no positive discrimination. We've got no quotas. There is nothing positive about discrimination. But you need to open your minds and you need to open your hearts to talent not looking like you, not behaving like you, not thinking like you, not acting like you. And it's what's best for this business. And if you're in any doubt, go and speak to your children. The children are my biggest allies. The students are teaching the teachers. So that's the first. The second thing we hear that stands in the way is, oh, yes, 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 René, we're going to widen the gate, but we're not lowering the bar. And I think, what do you mean not lowering the bar? How dare you? What makes you feel that because someone doesn't look like you, they're not going to have the capability? How dare you? And that's the easiest battle to win, because we just bring in people who are really talented, who don't look like them, who don't behave like them, but have something really powerful to add. And 9 times out of 10, those people exist in the business already. They've just never looked. They've just never heard. They've just never engaged. What I'm finding at the moment, and I say this forcefully, in the light of overwhelming evidence, we can take anyone with us. 10% can't be changed. 10% we meet, they're just not interested. I don't need to spend any more time talking about them. They're not worth the effort. But we're not going to change them. The 90% can be taken. We're blessed in the UK that there are so many models and examples of diversity in action, inclusion in action that works, people from different backgrounds who are brilliant. It's not difficult to prove.
Mm. Yeah.
And what we're finding is I'm probably a little bit more forceful than I'd like to be. I'm a little more challenging than perhaps I am at home. But I think I also am a lot more compassionate than I feel I need to be. And when I'm encouraging people on people who are the marginalized groups, underrepresented groups, when I'm asking them to speak up and speak out, they find it hard. And I have to coach them that if you get a microaggression or inappropriate behavior, you have to summon up the courage to call it out. Maybe not then. Maybe not at the moment. Maybe not alone. Maybe find some allies. But don't let it go. But when you do challenge, forgive. So it becomes a learning experience. And when I'm talking to the more senior people, I'm saying, when you're challenged, react with compassion, react with understanding, react knowing that this is a learning curve for you. And if when I'm pushing those two forces together, it works. I've got some amazing stuff. I'll give you another story. Unite Students. They provide student accommodation for tons of universities across the UK. So they serve many students of many, you can imagine how diverse that environment is of students. They're not the most diverse team in the world. Richard Smith, the chief executive, we were in there for 8 months. We've seen it right at the heart of it. I'm running a session focused on race, coaching 25 people about inclusion. What is inclusion? How does it work? I'm creating an atmosphere of inclusion. And I've got 25 of them. And I've got some challenges at the start. But some of the white men are feeling excluded. I've got them in. I'm giving them a voice. They're starting to feel part of it. They're not feeling threatened. There's no quotas. We've got targets. There's no reason for them to feel threatened. They're becoming advocates. They're coming on side. Then all of a sudden, the guy puts his hand up. We're on Teams. There's 25 people on Teams. And he says, René, can I say something, please? I said, of course. Do you know what I'm going to say? I say, you're probably going to give us an experience where you feel you haven't been able to be who you want to be. He said, that's right. How did you know? I just had a guess. He said, I've worked here for 4 years. I've got some amazing colleagues here, but I'd like to share something I've not shared before. Took a real deep breath. Came out and he said, for some reason, I've never felt this before. I feel comfortable. I feel secure. I feel safe. I feel I belong. I'd like to tell all of you that I'm gay.
Wow.
If it's said that you can't embrace and you can't hug online, you can. We did. Many of us shed a tear. It was one of the most amazing moments you could ever imagine. That night, he sends me a WhatsApp. Today was amazing, René, but you now need to coach me on how I'm going to tell my parents. And that night, I coached him and he told his parents. Now, don't tell me our world isn't changing.
And that's completely about understanding your worth and just developing. So when you say you become better version of yourself, you help them become better version, but you're actually helping them even more profoundly to accept their inner sense of worth and who they are, rather than improving themselves in some way. It's really—
You've said it far more eloquently than I would. It's all I'm doing is enabling them to have a voice that's truly cherished and treasured by their colleagues.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's how he felt. It's wonderfully simple. It's really hard to get to. Is it worth it? It's why we do what we do. Are we getting there? You better believe it.
Yeah. And in your quotes that you send daily, that I would recommend our listeners to subscribe, because very early in the morning when you check your emails, you get a fantastic quote from René. And one of them was one size fits no one in terms of leadership, right? And how, you know, you have to create the atmosphere, the right atmosphere for everyone that will make them feel included. And that's an art. Leadership is an art, as you
It's an art. And what we do every day of the week, we put out a Spike Spark. So come to our website, www.carayol.com, and you'll get the Spike Spark. You sign up. But every day of the week, I put up a story on LinkedIn about inclusion. We've done it from May the 25th last year. I made myself a promise that every day we're going to celebrate inclusion. And I'm going to put a straight talking, experiential story about inclusion. So we wrote a big piece about taking the knee. There was so much confusion and so much propaganda, negative propaganda put out about it. If you're of my vintage, you remember the time. I remember the time when black players in the UK, monkey chants, bananas from their own fans. Today, we've got their fellow players taking the knee in their honor. Don't tell me about politics. Don't tell me about a Marxist organization. Talk to me about solidarity, about a younger generation. Where Gareth Southgate, the England manager, nailed it. Those who are booing, that's the reason these people are taking the knee. Because of you booing. Whereas everyone else is celebrating the fact that we have the most inclusive team in the European Championships. Let's celebrate that.
I think, René, I think me and Tanya share the thoughts that we could definitely speak to you forever. It's just, you know, we had all these questions lined up, and I think we've asked you one, which was introduce yourself. And I'm so glad that it's just taken the route that it's taken, because I think you've given us more than we ever imagined we could possibly get. And
you're very kind.
The beauty of having such conversations sometimes is letting the natural flow take its space and its space. But René, we just want to try and wrap things up for the sake of, you know, respecting your time as well, and also. But before we let you go, we would love to hear what inspires you, or who inspires you. So as a little, we always ask our guests to share someone that they find inspiring, that they can also follow. And as we say, that's how we found you as well. So I would love to hear who inspires you.
So you found me on a good day.
Yes.
On Monday, we went to my old school in Harlesden, northwest London. It's Newman Catholic College. And the headmaster, Danny Coyle, asked me to come down and give a talk to year 10. When I went there, it was a Catholic boys' school. It was a grammar school. And in the entry year, my year I went in, there was 6 black boys got into the 200 boys going into the school. By the time I was leaving, some 7 years later, it was 5 white boys in the entry year. The school had completely changed because of the demographics in the area. I was a governor, 2 terms governor afterwards at the school, but I lost touch with the school. Danny called me a couple of years ago and said, look, the school's in trouble. He said there were no children applied to be in the entry year. It's in London. It's in a tough part of London in the borough of Brent. Brent decided they were going to close the school. Danny decided in the last chance saloon, he said, look, give me the children of all the refugees in Brent. Let them come to the school. Doesn't matter if they're Catholic. Doesn't matter if they're boys. They sent all the children of the refugees. What did they find? They're high achievers, given the chance. The school's performance went through the roof. because someone had believed in them. They came, all faiths, both genders, from every different community that was in a tough place. They found a safe haven. They found a bunch of teachers who were as diverse as they were. Danny put a diverse set of teachers. They're performing, they're performing, they're performing. We went back last Monday and I went with 3 members of my team, who one's of Indian descent, one's of white British descent, and one's of Bangladeshi descent. They looked like the students who are in the assembly. And they're all in their very early 20s. They've all finished university. They were role models. So I gave a bit of a talk and they asked questions of me and my team members. Electrifying, electrifying. These are amazing students. And Danny told us a little story. He said the school didn't close during the lockdown. Every day, him and all of his teachers turned up. Do you know why? The majority of the parents are key workers. They had to work. The school had to open. And it had to open because if they didn't open, their children wouldn't be fed for that day. After a couple of weeks, what him and his staff were doing wasn't just teaching. They were driving cars, delivering food to the children's homes and the staff's homes. This is what our education secretary should be talking about, but I'm sure he doesn't even know. They're my heroes. They are my heroes. They're the people we look up to. They're the fabric of our community. They're the leaders that are really driving inclusion. And everything they're doing in Newman Catholic College, I'm trying to get Microsoft, HSBC, Credit Suisse, Unite Students, City Fiber, all of my clients. We have the role models. Newman Catholic College.
Beautiful.
Absolutely beautiful. I think it's such an inspiring story of just courage to do something when you see that something needs to be done, and rather than just standing by and accepting that it is what it is.
We call that leadership.
Yes.
Inclusive
Beautiful.
leadership. And that's what I'm coaching. And the message I would give to all of your listeners is the message of Newman Catholic College. And a message for all of us. Look out for each other, look after each other. Look out for each other, look after each other.
I can't think of a better way to end this, because I think that's just a bit of a mic drop moment, quite frankly. Thank you so much, René. As we always give our listeners as well a chance to follow you and get in touch with you, what's the best way to get in touch with you, or to, I know you've got obviously a profile in LinkedIn, and you've mentioned carayol.com as well.
LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, but really go to www.carayol.com and you'll get everything you need. Sign up for a Spike Spark. Get a bit of inspiration on inclusion every day. Start your day with a buzz. And the book Spike. Yeah. If you really want to accelerate your career, Spike is for you.
All right, brilliant. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Really appreciate it. And we wish everyone an absolutely lovely day. Go on and follow René. And thank you everyone for listening. Want to wish you bye-bye and a lovely day to everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Anne. Thank you, Tanya. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.